When watching a film like Puss in Boots: The Last Wish, one can only think at first about how on earth are they going to tackle 3 different distinct villains in one film. All of the antagonists here are virtually against Puss. 2 of them are competing for the same goal as the cat, while the other one is the literal physical embodiment of death. And when you start to see the film progress, you actually see why they actually work, why they are so good at what they do. In the cases of Goldilocks, her goal is to simply have a wish to have a real family. Nothing they do is specifically antagonistic in nature, to oppose and try to stop Puss and act as protagonists in their own right, while Death is actually just trying to do what it was designed to do and sees Puss's life after it noticed how wasteful he has become for his 9 lives. 9 chances to live where everyone gets 1. But in the case of Jack Horner, he is actually evil for the sake of being evil. His goal is to have the last wish, but to have all the magic in the world because of it, to make himself probably the most powerful being in the Shrek universe. Basically, the perfect villain. Jack holds the distinction for being one who simply does not care. He is not what we know today as the typical sympathetic villain having their own goals about the world and such, but he is one that we grew up as kids as just being evil villains because they are. The point where you can't look beyond who this person is being that threat to the main characters, and one being designed to ruin our lives just for the sake of it. They did something right here for the sake of the film by having too many antagonists alongside Puss and his friends. This film has as much characters as a typical Avengers film would have. That virtually cramps up room and makes it hard to explore different characters, so why not actually take this simple route instead for him and make him the way he is just because he wants to. His background already describes him as completely successful, where his only tragic backstory was the fact he wasn't the popular fable story like Pinocchio was, and that's basically it. Most people today wouldn't actually recognize anything about the story of Jack Horner, unlike the likes of Pinocchio and others, considering how many adaptations that have been made on the big screen for the sake of the story. So for the sake of the story, why don't we just make him like this while we can have other characters like Death give Puss fear and Goldilocks to have something to search for that's just right. It's a pretty genius move that actually works and beyond anything that I would have thought an animated film have, especially one that follows an okay first film that really didn't add much. The best part about Jack is he's a complete psychopath. He cares little for his men, obviously, by the amount of times we see him either directly or indirectly kill them, and uses them as tools when he uses them to cross as a bridge, where because of how heavy his cart is, they all fall to their deaths, except for the last one. Like you see at the beginning, he starts with a team of 50, but ends up with virtually 1, and himself anyway. You see how he hits all his men multiple times and make them explode as confetti, and directly tells others how he's not worried about the fact they're getting chomped up by killer plants as long as he's the one left standing. The main focus of him is how he's this collector of different types of magic, like he's some sort of treasure hunter, and uses that whenever he wants to accomplish his goal by getting rid of anyone else, and that's what he values more than his own men. After all, they are basically chefs working to produce his pies, and he's the one who wants to wield untimely power that makes him virtually a god. And that's the fact that puts Jiminy Cricket into the fold, who tries to guide Jack as best as possible to make the right decisions, but that ends up being useless anyway because no matter how many times he attempts to get through them, he's just using stuff to blow shit up or burn the forest with a phoenix as a flamethrower. He loves being bad and really enjoys it, as we've seen, and makes deal with others that allow them to make the wrong move that would cost them.
I'm not really stressing about the manpower. I've got a bottomless bag of magic weapons. These babies are gonna get me that wish even after the whole team is dead and gone.
Of course, the best parts do actually come from the scene where the cricket is realizing he is an absolute deranged lunatic, where even he just casually states that this was obvious the entire time.
You're an irredeemable monster! What took you so long, idiot?
The goals of Jack here are just simply becoming more powerful. What he has already is just unsatisfying with the things that anyone would already want: to have a successful pie business, a collection of magical items, and he's just rich beyond what is needed and just seeks more, where nothing he does is done with any huge backstory to it. In this film, we already have a multitude of characters to fulfill a specific role that one villain usually has, where we see each of them fulfill their certain purpose, and that results in the final battle where everyone comes together to learn to accept their situations, where in the case of the end of Jack, even he shows that no matter what, he still feels no wrong for what he had done the entire film. It might seem at first that the way he speaks, he actually showcases a bit of regret, but then again he starts to explain more and more and reverts back to the same Jack we've known throughout this story.
What did I do to deserve this? I mean, what specifically?
So even in death, he still harbors the same feelings of being completely evil instead of sympathetic. He learns absolutely nothing, and he completes his very arc of being insane. It's a movie that shows different people with different ideas, and this was the perfect way to represent that. And Jack was the perfect villain who didn't even need much in his story in the way of blocking others, because of the fact that something was simply there, and he wanted it, got it, and then lost it because everyone else found what they were looking for specifically. If he were to accomplish his goals in the first place, he would have been the most powerful threat that could possibly ruin everyone else, but didn't in the grand scheme of our main characters. In short, Jack Horner is just plain old good-fashioned evil fun. And I guess that's it. I'm all done. Goodbye for now.